London, 1815. Lord Thomas Rutherford, younger son of the Duke of Westmoreland and unofficial diplomatic attaché to the Crown, surveyed the grand ballroom of Pembroke House with practiced indifference. Though barely 30, his years in service to king and country had taught him to observe while appearing utterly uninterested, a skill that had served him well in both diplomatic circles and the marriage mart. "Thomas, your scowl is frightening the débutantes," murmured his sister, Lady Caroline, appearing at his side with 2 glasses of champagne. He accepted one with a slight bow. "Perhaps that is my intention. You cannot avoid matrimony forever. Father grows impatient." "Father grows impatient with everything that does not immediately bend to his will," Thomas replied, his fingers unconsciously reaching for the space beneath his cravat where his most prized possession should have rested. The realization that the locket was still missing sent a fresh wave of dismay through him. Caroline noted the gesture. "Still no sign of mother's locket?" "None." The diamond-encrusted gold locket contained the only existing miniature of their mother, painted shortly before her death. More importantly, it contained a secret compartment holding information that, in the wrong hands, could compromise British intelligence operations across the continent. "I've had the entire Rutherford house searched 3 times. Perhaps it will turn up." Caroline's attention shifted to the entrance. "Oh. The Clarendons have arrived." Thomas followed her gaze to see the Earl of Clarendon, his Countess, and their daughter, Lady Amelia Clarendon, making their entrance. At 22, Lady Amelia was no fresh-faced débutante but a confident woman who had refused no fewer than 6 proposals over 4 seasons. Her chestnut hair was arranged in an elegant coiffure, her emerald gown perfectly complementing her hazel eyes. Thomas had always admired her from afar, her wit, her independence, her refusal to be cowed by society's expectations, but their interactions had been limited to polite conversation at social gatherings. Tonight, however, as their eyes met across the room, something in her expression gave him pause. She looked away quickly, almost guiltily. "I believe I shall pay my respects to the Clarendons," he told Caroline, setting down his glass. His sister raised an eyebrow. "Indeed? How unexpected. Don't start, Caro." As Thomas made his way toward the family, he caught sight of an unfamiliar young woman in the Clarendon party. She wore a simple blue gown, modest but well-cut, suggesting a gentlewoman of limited means. The slight hesitation in her movements marked her as unaccustomed to such grand affairs. Lord Clarendon greeted him warmly. "Rutherford! Excellent to see you. Allow me to present my wife's companion, Miss Abigail Cooper." The young woman curtsied, her eyes downcast. "Lord Rutherford. Miss Cooper." Thomas bowed, then turned to Lady Amelia. "Lady Amelia, you are looking well." "Thank you, my lord," she replied, her voice unusually strained. "I trust your diplomatic endeavors prosper?" "As well as can be expected in these uncertain times." Lady Clarendon interjected, "Miss Cooper has only just joined our household. She was previously employed as a governess for the Harringtons in Bath." "Indeed?" Thomas studied the young woman more carefully. There was something familiar about her, though he could not place it. She raised her gaze to meet his, and he was struck by the intelligence in her deep blue eyes. Before he could continue the conversation, the orchestra began to play. "Lady Amelia, might I have the honor of this dance?" he asked, extending his hand. Amelia hesitated, glancing at Miss Cooper. Yes, of course, my lord." As he led her to the dance floor, Thomas noted the slight tremble in her hand. "Are you unwell, Lady Amelia?" "Merely a touch of fatigue," she replied as they took their positions for the quadrille. "London's social calendar is particularly demanding this season." "Indeed. One might almost prefer the straightforward dangers of diplomatic service." This drew a genuine smile. "Do you truly find social engagement so perilous, Lord Rutherford?" "Infinitely more so. On the continent, one at least knows who one's enemies are." They moved through the figures of the dance, conversation limited by the dictates of the pattern. When they could speak again, Thomas asked casually, "Your companion seems a proper young lady. Has she been with your family long?" Amelia missed a step. Miss Cooper? No, only a fortnight. Mother's previous companion eloped most scandalously with a cavalry officer. How unfortunate. Quite the opposite, I think. They were madly in love. Thomas raised an eyebrow. You approve of such impulsivity. I approve of genuine affection, Lord Rutherford, however it manifests. Her gaze was steady, challenging. Do you not? Before he could answer, the dance ended. As he escorted her back to her family, Thomas noticed Miss Cooper in animated conversation with his sister. More curious still, as they approached, she hastily adjusted her modest neckline. That's when he saw it, the gleam of gold at her throat, partially concealed by the lace of her gown. His mother's locket. Thomas froze, his mind racing. How had this woman, this stranger, come into possession of his family heirloom? More importantly, had she discovered its secret contents? The implications were alarming. Lord Rutherford. Lady Amelia's voice broke through his thoughts. Is something amiss? He composed his features. Not at all. I just recalled an urgent matter requiring my attention. He bowed to the group. If you'll excuse me. As he moved away, he caught Miss Cooper's eye. Something in her expression, apprehension mixed with defiance, confirmed his suspicions. Whatever game she was playing, he would uncover it. Thomas maneuvered through the crowded ballroom toward his sister. Who is she? He demanded quietly. Caroline blinked innocently. Who? Miss Cooper. What do you know of her? Only that she's delightful company and possesses a keen mind. Why do you ask? She's wearing Mother's locket. Caroline's eyes widened. Are you certain? Absolutely. His jaw tightened. And I intend to discover how it came to be in her possession. Thomas, surely you don't think I think nothing yet. But I will have answers. The next morning, Thomas presented himself at the Clarendon residence in Grosvenor Square at an hour early enough to indicate urgency but not so early as to appear improper. He was shown to the morning room, where, to his surprise, Miss Cooper sat alone, a book in her lap. She rose quickly. Lord Rutherford. The family is not yet receiving visitors. It is you I wish to see, Miss Cooper. He closed the door behind him, remaining near it to preserve propriety despite the impropriety of their private meeting. Or should I say, the locket you wear? Her hand flew to her throat, where the locket was once again hidden beneath her modest neckline. I don't understand. I think you do. He stepped forward. That locket belongs to my family. It disappeared from my possession 3 weeks ago, and now I find it around your neck. I would hear your explanation before I summon the magistrate. Color drained from her face. Please, my lord, there is no need for authorities. Then speak plainly. Are you a thief, Miss Cooper? Or something worse? Her chin lifted, eyes flashing with indignation. I am neither, sir. The locket was given to me. Given? By whom? Lady Amelia. Of all possible answers, this was the least expected. Lady Amelia Clarendon gave you my mother's locket? Yes. Her fingers worried the chain. She said it was a gift, that it rightfully belonged to me. Thomas studied her face, searching for deception. That's impossible. That locket has been in the Rutherford family for generations. Nevertheless, it is the truth. She hesitated. Though perhaps not the whole truth. A knock interrupted them, and the door opened to reveal Lady Amelia herself, still in her morning dress. She froze at the sight of Thomas. Lord Rutherford. I was not informed of your call. An unplanned visit, he replied coldly. Miss Cooper and I were just discussing a certain family heirloom she claims you gave her. Amelia's face paled, but she entered the room and closed the door. Abigail, please show Lord Rutherford the locket. After a moment's hesitation, Miss Cooper, Abigail, pulled the chain from beneath her gown. The familiar gold oval with its diamond border caught the morning light. Thomas reached for it, but Abigail stepped back. "Please, open it first." He paused, then nodded. She carefully unclasped the locket and handed it to him. Inside was the expected miniature of his mother, Countess Rutherford, with her serene smile and kind eyes. But as he gazed upon it, he noticed something he had never observed before, the remarkable resemblance between his mother and the young woman standing before him. "I don't understand," he said slowly. Amelia stepped forward. "Lord Rutherford, Thomas, Miss Cooper is your half-sister." The world seemed to tilt beneath his feet. "Impossible." "Your mother had a brief affair before her marriage," Amelia continued softly. "Abigail was born in secret and placed with a respectable family in Bath. Your mother visited her when possible, always wearing that locket." Thomas stared at Abigail, seeing now what his mind had refused to recognize, the shape of her eyes, so like his own, the proud tilt of her chin that mirrored his mother's portrait. "How do you know this, Lady Amelia?" he demanded. "Your mother confided in mine before her death. She made my mother promise to watch over Abigail from afar." Amelia moved to stand beside Abigail. "When Abigail's adopted parents died last year, leaving her to make her own way as a governess, my mother arranged to bring her into our household." "And the locket?" Thomas asked, his voice strained. Abigail spoke up. "I've known since childhood that the Countess was my mother. She told me herself when I was 7. On her last visit, she promised that someday I would have her locket as proof of my lineage." Her voice faltered. "She died before she could fulfill that promise." "So you stole it," Thomas concluded, his mind still struggling to accept this revelation. "No," Amelia interjected firmly. "I took it." "You?" His disbelief was evident. "Yes." Amelia lifted her chin defiantly. "I visited Rutherford House for your mother's memorial service. The locket was displayed with her personal effects. I knew what it meant to Abigail, knew your mother had intended her to have it. So I liberated it." "You committed theft in my home." "I righted a wrong," she countered. "Abigail had nothing of her mother's, while you and your family had everything." Thomas paced the room, his world upended. "Why reveal this now? Why not approach my father or me directly?" Abigail and Amelia exchanged glances. "Your father knew of my existence," Abigail said quietly. "After your mother's death, he made it clear that he wanted no reminder of his wife's indiscretion. He paid my adoptive parents a substantial sum to keep me away from London society." The revelation struck Thomas like a physical blow. "My father knew?" "Yes. And he threatened to ruin the Cooper family if they ever spoke of my parentage." Abigail's voice was steady despite the pain evident in her eyes. "I would have remained silent forever, but when Lady Clarendon discovered who I was, my mother insisted on bringing her into our household," Amelia finished. "We had no intention of making public claims, but we wanted Abigail to have some connection to her true family." Thomas looked down at the locket in his hand, running his thumb over the intricate engraving. The secret compartment remained unopened, its contents apparently undiscovered. "There is more to this locket than you know," he said finally. "What do you mean?" Abigail asked. Instead of answering, Thomas carefully pressed the hidden mechanism. The false back of the locket swung open, revealing a tiny folded paper. He removed it and returned the locket to Abigail. "This contains intelligence vital to Crown interests," he explained. "I've been frantic to recover it." Amelia's eyes widened. "I had no idea." "I would never have, I believe you." Thomas refolded the paper and tucked it into his waistcoat. "Though I'm curious how you managed to remove it from my house undetected." A hint of mischief crossed Amelia's face. "I may have created a diversion by spilling wine on Lord Harrington's waistcoat." Despite everything, Thomas found himself smiling. Clever. Ruthless, but clever. A moment of silence fell between them, broken when Thomas turned to Abigail. "Miss Cooper, or rather, Miss Rutherford, I suppose, I owe you an apology. It seems I have a sister I never knew existed." Abigail's eyes filled with tears. "I never expected acknowledgement, my lord. The locket was enough. Nevertheless, you shall have it." Thomas straightened his shoulders. "I cannot speak for my father, but I can speak for myself. You are my mother's daughter, which makes you my sister in truth, if not in law." "Thomas," Amelia warned, "society will not easily accept such a claim." "Society," he replied dryly, "has endured far greater scandals. Besides, I have some influence in diplomatic circles. Arranging a suitable background for my newfound sister should not prove insurmountable." The days that followed tested Thomas's diplomatic skills as never before. His father, the Duke, initially refused to acknowledge Abigail, threatening to cut Thomas off without a penny if he persisted in this foolishness. But Thomas held firm, enlisting his sister Caroline's support and, surprisingly, finding an ally in his older brother, the Marquis. Meanwhile, his interactions with Lady Amelia took on a new dimension. Her boldness in stealing the locket should have outraged him, yet he found himself admiring her loyalty and courage. She had risked her reputation to help a friend, no, more than a friend, he realized. Amelia and Abigail had formed a sisterly bond that rivaled blood ties. A fortnight after the revelation, Thomas called at the Clarendon residence to find Amelia alone in the garden, sketching. She set aside her work as he approached. "Lord Rutherford, how fares your campaign to integrate Abigail into society?" "Progress is slow but steady." He took a seat beside her on the stone bench. "My father has agreed to a compromise. Abigail will be introduced as a distant cousin, recently widowed and left in our care. It's not full acknowledgement, but it offers her protection and standing." "And does this arrangement satisfy Abigail?" "It does. She never sought to disrupt the Rutherford family, she merely wanted connection." Amelia nodded approvingly. "You've handled this with remarkable grace, my lord." "Have I?" Thomas smiled wryly. "I confess, there have been moments when I wished you had never taken that locket." "And now?" His gaze held hers. "Now I'm grateful. Not for the theft, mind you, that was unconscionable." "Of course," she agreed, eyes twinkling. "But for forcing me to see what was before my eyes all along." He paused. "Not just Abigail, but you as well, Lady Amelia." A flash colored her cheeks. "Me?" "Yes. I've spent years observing you from a distance, admiring your intelligence, your independence. But it took this upheaval for me to truly see your character, your loyalty, your courage, your willingness to risk everything for those you care about. Those are dangerous qualities in a lady, or so society would have us believe. Society is often wrong." He took her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "In diplomatic service, one learns to value allies who speak truth regardless of consequence." "Is that what I am, Lord Rutherford?" "An ally? I hope you might become something more." His voice softened. "Much more." The weeks that followed saw a transformation in the Rutherford family. Abigail was gradually introduced into society as Mrs. Abigail Cooper Rutherford, a distant relation recently returned from abroad. Though whispers circulated, Thomas's standing and the support of the Clarendons ensured her acceptance in all but the most rigid circles. More surprising was the Duke's eventual thawing toward his wife's daughter. Perhaps it was Abigail's unmistakable resemblance to her mother, or perhaps the years had softened his pride. Whatever the reason, by midsummer, he had progressed from grudging acknowledgement to genuine affection. As for Thomas and Amelia, their courtship proceeded with remarkable speed. Her theft of the locket became a private joke between them, with Thomas frequently lamenting the criminal tendencies of his future wife. "You realize," he told her as they walked through Hyde Park one warm June morning, "that our children will likely inherit your disregard for property rights." Amelia laughed. "A fair exchange for your diplomatic tongue, which never quite reveals the whole truth. A match made in heaven, then, the diplomat and the thief. I prefer to think of myself as a redistributor of meaningful possessions." He stopped walking, turning to face her. "Speaking of possessions." Thomas reached into his pocket and withdrew a small box. I have something for you. Legally obtained, I assure you. Amelia opened it to find a gold ring set with emeralds that matched her eyes. Thomas? I thought of having a special locket made, he said softly, but decided that might be tempting fate. Tears sparkled in her eyes as she laughed. Wise decision. Amelia Clarendon, you upended my life by stealing a family heirloom. In the process, you gave me back a sister I never knew and showed me the kind of woman I want by my side forever. He took her hand. Will you marry me? Yes, she whispered, though I warn you, I may occasionally liberate items for good causes. Then I shall have to keep you too occupied to pursue a life of crime. He slipped the ring onto her finger, then kissed her with a thoroughness that would have scandalized the ton had anyone been watching. Later that evening, at a small dinner party hosted by the Clarendons to celebrate the engagement, Abigail raised her glass. To my brother and future sister, she said, the locket gleaming at her throat. May your union bring as much joy as you have brought to my life. Thomas looked around the table, at Amelia, radiant with happiness, at Abigail, finally claiming her rightful place, at his sister Caroline and his reluctantly approving father, and marveled at how a single lost locket had changed everything. Sometimes, he reflected, the greatest diplomatic victories occurred not in royal courts, but in matters of the heart. When he and Amelia were married that autumn, Abigail stood as bridesmaid, the Rutherford locket her proudest adornment. And if anyone whispered about her remarkable resemblance to the late Countess, well, that was simply one more secret London society pretended not to know.